So let's talk about the Canon 24 to 105 RF f2.8 lens. I love this lens for photography. It was an amazing experience to be able to put this lens on my camera and go from wide to medium to telephoto shots. It makes a world of difference coming from the 24 to 70 and even the old EF 24 to 105 f4, because this lens is also super dope when you're in low light environments, and it makes a huge difference, especially when you're shooting with the R3, which has that back illuminated sensor that's amazing in low light as well. I primarily shoot a lot of events, parties, church services, which don't present the best lighting environments to be able to shoot in with controlled lighting from that perspective. So being able to go with a lens that has the f2.8 aperture makes a huge difference as opposed to the f4 version in the EF mount. Other positives with this lens is that it's black, so this fits my aesthetic a lot. You see I got the black desk back there, I got a black wall back here, and all the rest of my camera gear is black, so it fits my aesthetic really well. From a run and gun perspective, this lens is super dope, being able to go from 24 somewhere between the 50 to 85 and then the 105 range. This also opens up a myriad of opportunities for framing. Considering the rule of thirds, you can shoot on the left, middle, or right hand side of the screen, and then also at the top or bottom where it concerns your framing as well. So you can mix and match a lot of your angles with such a wide span of focal lengths within one lens. For video, this lens was really good. It did take some getting used to as far as being able to use the zoom ring, being able to use the aperture ring, and considering its weight. This weight comes in just under 3 pounds, so it's not something that's going to be really easy to handle, especially when you pair it up with an R5 or an R3. You're really kind of dealing with a 4 to 8 pound beast that you're going to be carrying around and operating with on the go. This lens is really designed for that kind of work where you're talking about behind the scenes content, events, and documentaries. As far as video is concerned, with its stabilization, this lens is going to be amazing if you're going to try it out, if you do those kinds of workflows. And I can't imagine not having this kind of lens in my bag after using it. So I filmed a party last week, and having this lens paired up with the R3 was a match made in heaven. I can't even describe to you how amazing it was to shoot with this lens. You're seeing some of those clips right now, and what I was blown away by was that there was so much detail in the shadows and in the blacks. You can see details in the skin and in some of the background elements. You're able to retain the color, and the image did not go down to mush like it would in some of the other lenses that I've used, especially in dimly lit environments. I mentioned the stabilization as well. The stabilization built within the lens, as well as the stabilization built within the Canon R3, made it really easy to capture amazing smooth video. Now these shots are really looking gimbal-esque, gimbal-ish, and I was shooting handheld, walking around with the lens in my hand, and the lens and the camera in my hand, and I was blown away by these shots, man. They look really smooth, and you can't really tell the difference, especially going from 24 to 105 when you're zooming, as well as when I'm actually moving my feet and walking around with the lens. I had to do just a little bit of stabilization in post, but for the most part, right out of camera, this lens provides an amazing smooth image ready to go. Now, with most things you're going to like a lot, but you're probably going to dislike a little bit. So here are my dislikes that I had with the Canon 24 to 105 f2.8 lens. Y'all, this lens is long and this lens is heavy. I definitely cannot put it in my bag with it connected to the camera. I had to separate the two. And this also brings up a thought that if I get this lens and add it to my everyday kit, I'm probably gonna have to upgrade my camera bag. Now, I mentioned this lens comes in at just under 3 pounds. So if you pair that up again with the Canon R5 or the Canon R3, you're definitely going to be packing some weight. So thinking about how I carried the bag, I was able to put it in my roll top area inside of its original bag that it came with, because it wouldn't fit within the camera cube. So this is something to think about if you're interested in getting this lens, is how you're going to add it to your kit and carry it around with you. And for reference, I'm using the Wandered 40-liter backpack, the Provoke backpack. I didn't discover this part until I returned the lens, but it does have a locking mechanism for the aperture ring. When you're shooting video, that ring is live. So you can go from 2.8 on one clip and look up on the next clip and you can be at F4 if you're not careful. So I wish I would have known about the locking mechanism when I first got the lens. I didn't research that part, so it was my fault that I didn't really know. But it's definitely something that you should know if you're picking this lens up for rent or to purchase for the first time. Now with photography, the aperture ring does not move. It stays locked in to whatever the aperture is. So that's another thing that just made it out of sight, out of mind, because I shot photos with this prior to shooting a professional video project. So you definitely want to consider locking it or knowing that it's live and it'll change going from F2.8 all the way to F22. So there were some clips at the birthday party that I filmed that were started off at F4, and I was like, oh shoot, let me just change this back to F2.8 to make sure that I'm maximizing on the light that I'm allowing into the sensor with this lens. So who was this lens for and why? This lens is definitely designed to be used by professionals, right? So if you have the type of projects that demand this kind of focal length, this kind of weight, is definitely going to be something I think you should consider. For professionals only. Considering the weight alone, the lens can be damaged. It can be easily dropped off a table, slip out of your bag. And if you're not a professional that's used to taking care of really expensive gear, this may be something that you want to consider before purchasing it. Now, on top of that, this lens is really expensive to purchase, could be really expensive to repair or replace, coming in at just under $3,000 used and $3,000 flat brand new. So this is definitely for professionals that are working jobs that are paying a great amount, that you could purchase this lens 2 or 3 times over if needed. The Canon RF 24-105 f2.8 lens is definitely designed for run and gun shooting. It's designed for studio shooting, whether you're shooting studio photography or studio video. And it's also really great for documentaries, event recaps. Like I mentioned, I shoot live events and concerts, church services, things of that nature, where you got to be on the run. The stabilization in tandem with the wide focal range and the f2.8 aperture, consistent through all of the focal range, is truly amazing and definitely designed for professionals. Now, what if you're a beginner? What should you do? You should definitely get your weight up and continue to work towards being able to afford and prepare your mind to take care of really expensive gear. If you're an intermediate user, I would definitely recommend renting a lens like this before you purchase it, because you never know if it's really going to work with your workflow until you try it out first. And it's way less expensive to rent before you buy. So for example, renting the Canon RF 24-105 f2.8 was about $150 for a 7-day stint. So imagine if you were renting it for 2 weeks, that's about $300, and that's just a tenth of what the lens cost if you were going to buy it flat out, even without tax. So definitely something to consider if you are an intermediate user. If you have a special project coming up or a special event that you're going to be shooting and you want to kind of make sure that your quality is at a certain level, definitely go ahead and rent this lens before you purchase it. And shout out to Creative Ryan, shout out to Aperture Rent. Creative Ryan and his channel did turn me on to Aperture Rent, and it is amazing company. I was able to rent this lens in Dallas, Texas while visiting and doing an event down there with my family, and then I was able to fly home with the lens, use it a little bit more, and then return it via mail right back down to Dallas at Aperture Rent. So it was an amazing experience, super streamlined. I definitely recommend that you check out Aperture Rent for all of your camera needs as far as rentals are concerned. And last but not least, this lens is for me. I can definitely see myself adding this lens to my kit to replace the EF24-105 f4, which I very rarely use these days because I have to use the adapter and it's an f4 lens. Doesn't really match the aesthetic that I'm trying to go for whether I'm shooting photo or video these days. And if I can sell the 24-70 f2.8 lens, I will definitely be upgrading to the 24-105 f2.8. It fits my aesthetic so much. It's black, it's heavy, but it's definitely worth it. It's got the wide focal range, the mid focal range, and the telephoto focal range, which is great for shooting the types of things that I shoot. And I can use it in studio for photography or for video. So I can definitely see myself using this lens and owning this lens in the future. All right, y'all, that wraps up the video. Thank you guys for watching. If you have not subscribed yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button right down here. I want y'all to know when I drop new videos. I want you to be notified when I drop new videos because I'm trying to provide value to y'all, man. So if you haven't already, like this video, subscribe, and leave me a comment. Let's start a conversation in the comment section. If you have questions or want to know more, if you want to add to the conversation about the Canon 24-105 f2.8 lens, let's talk about it, y'all. And until the next time, appreciate y'all for watching. Peace.